So, who do you know tonight, lazy and gentlemen? The echo is where in the back of the woods. Call him forth. Sean McIrick, brief dragger, for the concern of Messrs. John Jameson and Son, rated 100 and thin per store 100 on this nightly quizquiquock of the 12 apostrophes, set by Jocket McIrick. He misunderstruck an aim for a motto of number 3 of them, and left his 3 natural ripostes to 4 of them in their own fine artful disorder. 1. What second-to-none myth erector and maximost bridges maker was the first to rise taller through his bean's tail than the blue gum baobab baum or the giganteous Wellingtonia sequoia? Went nudie boots with trousers into a Lafayette when she was barely in her tricklies. Was well known to claw the conciliation cap onto the esker of his hooth. Sports the chain ganger's Albert soul manly over his Hollander's opulence. Thought he weighed a new ton when there felt his first lap apple. Gave the highnessness of choice to every night betwixt yesterdays and 2 Marys. Had 7 all successive coloured serban maids on the same big white drawing-room hearthrug. Is a will be forced to this hour at house as he was in Heather. Pumped the Catholic war tray and shocked the prod-stung boyne. Killed his own hungry self in anger as a young man. Found fodder for 5 when all Marken rows go flooded. With Irish tutores Cornish made easy. Voucher of rotables, tall of the road. Bred many-headed stepsons for 1 leap-your-own daughter. Is too funny for a fish and has too much outside for an insect. Like a heptagon crystal imprisms truth and phosphorus. Is infinite swell in unfitting induments. Once he was shoveled, and once he was arsoned, and once he was enundered, and she hung him out Bill Bailey. Has a quadrant on his tile to tell Tola Cadder Clog it is. Offers chances to long on, but stands up to leg before. Found coal at the end of his harrow and moss roses behind the seams. Made a fort out of his postern and wrote FERT on his buckler. Is escape master-in-chief from all sorts of hiding places. If he out-Herods against Barkers, to the schoolbred he acts whitely. Was evacuated at the mere appearance of 3 germ hunts and twice besieged by a sweep. From zoomorphology to omni-animalism he is brooched by the spin of a coin. Towers, an Eddystone, amid the lampless, casting swan beams on the deep. Zem zem, zem zem. Threatens thunder upon malefactors and sends whispers up frou-frous frou-frous. When do Cookback Crook upsits his ass, boozeworthies jeer and junket, but they booze him ooze and bars his ass when he looks like Hunket Plunket. By so-and-sos and search a party on a lady of this city. Business, reading newspaper, smoking cigar, arranging tumblers on table, eating meals, pleasure, etc., etc., pleasure, eating meals, arranging tumblers on table, smoking cigar, reading newspaper, business. Minerals, wash and brush up, local views, juju toffee, comic and birthdays cards. Those were the days and he was their hero. Pink sunset shower, red clay cloud, sorrow of Sahara, oxhide of iron. Arraigned and attainted, listed and leated, pleaded and proved. catches his check at Bank of Inganged, and endorses his doom at chapel exit. Brain of the Franks, hand of the Christian, tongue of the North. Commands to dinner and calls the bluff. Has a block at Morgan's and a headache all the afternoon. Plays Geheimrat when he's ernst, but misses Mousy when he's lustig. Walked as far as the head, where he sat in state on the rump. Shows early English trace marks and a marigold window with many gilt lights, a myrioscope, 2 remarkable piscines, and 3 well worth seeing embries. Arches all portcollaized, and his nave dates from dots. Is a horologe unstoppable and the ben of all bells. Fried, ist and herit, and though he's mildew-stained, he's mouldy-stoned. Is a quercus in the forest, but plain member for Megalopolis. Mount on mighty, fawn on fleetfoot. Plank in our platform, blank in our scotum. Heidel, in carucates he is enumerated, hold as an earl he counts. Ship-shaped phrase of bug-looking words with a form like the easing moments of a graminivorous. To our dooms brought he law, our memoirs he made his will of. Was an overgrind to the underground, an aqueduced for fiery throats. Sends boys in socks a coffer whooping when he lets forth his carbon oxide, and silk stockings show her shapings when he loses hose on hers. Stocks dry powder for the ill people, and pinkens pellets for all the pale. Gave his Monday foot to Miserius, her pinch to Analivia, that superfine pigtail to Ceresia Cerosia, and quid rights to Titius, Caius, and Sempronius. Made the man, who had no notion of shopkeepers, feel he'd rather play the duke than play the gentleman. Shot 2 queens and shook 3 castles when he won his game of dwarfs. Fumes inwards like a strombolist till he smokes at both ends. Man-mode, be fier of him. Womankind, pietad. Shows 1 white drift of snow among the gorse growth of his crown, and a chaperon of repentance on that which shed gore. Pause and quies, triple bill. Went by metro for the polis, and then hoved by. To the finders, hail! Woe you that seek! Whom filth had plenished, Darth devoured. Hawk is leading, Coco comes next, Emery tries for the flag. Can dance the O'Brien's polar pass at Nolan to his own orchestra's accompaniment. Took place before the International Convention of Catholic Midwives and found stead before the Congress for the Study of Endonational Calamities. Makes a deluxurious entree and finishes off the course between sweets and savories. Flouts for forecasts, flares for finds, and the fun of the fray on the fairground. Cleared out 365 idols to set up 1 all-colossal for henwives hoping to have males. The Flahulach, the grasping one, the kindler of paschal fire. Forbids us our trespassers as we forgate him. The phoenix be his pyre, the Cineres his sire. Piles big Pelium on little ossas, like the pillars of Hercules. Has an Oedipus complex and a drink the dregs kink. Bus meats for chumps and cow carlos for scullions. When he plies for our favor, is very trolley ours. 2 psychic espousals and 3 desertions. Maybe matter of fact now, but was footer of mark then. Catamole Hill, ex-mountain of flesh, was reared up by stress and sank under strain. Tank it up, dank it up, tells the tailor to his tout. On to car for a man, but bit a thimble for a maid. Blimp, blump. A dud letter, a sing, a song, a syllable, a byword, a sentence with surcease. While stands, his can you see him frail shall fall. Was hatched at Selbridge, but ejaculated a brood. As it gan in the beginnings, so wound up in the battle of Boss. Roderick, 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 oh, you've gone the way of the Danes. Variously catalogued, regularly regrouped. A bush boy's holiday, a quacker's mating, a wench's sandbath. The same homo heteros check in Lossac as when soliae airly blew ye. Real detonation, but false report. Spar mad, but insane. 500,000 via bogus census, but a no-street horseman when all fend. Is the handiest of all Andes and the most elegant spot to dump your hump. Hands his secession to the new patricius, but plums phlegmatically for the bloody old centuries. Eats with doors open and rots with gates closed. Some dub him Rothschild, and more limb him Rocky Fellow. Shows he's fly to both demispheres, but thrice to cover up his tracers. 7 dovecoats who claim to have been Pichenheim to this Homer: Smyrnion, Roebuck, Colonsky, Sea Point, Quayhoth, Ashtown, Rethany. Independent of the lordship of Chamberlain, acknowledging the rule of Rome. We saw thy farm at useful prime, Donal, Donal. Reeks like Ilbel Paese and looks like Iceland's ear. Lodged at quad places, lived through tot rains. Takes a shum bath for his weekend and a wasser nap for his refreshment. After a good bout at stool ball, enjoys giroflé, girofla. What never more missed and Colombo found. Believes in every man his own gold keeper, and in Africa for the full blacks. The arc of his drive was 40 full, and his stumps were pulled at 80. Boasts him to the thick enthused the oldest creator in Ariana, and looks down on the Swiss family Colossons, whom he calls Les Nouvelles Roches. Though his heart, soul, and spirit turn to far-off times, his love, faith, and hope stick to futurism. Light leglifters sense him souriant from afar, while boor browbenders curse him grovelance to his hindmost. Between Ulasses and Yelat's glimpse of Evan. The lug his peak has, the luck his pile. Drinks thar and water for his asthma, and eats the unperishable sow to stave off regular wreck. The beggars cloak him reclined about his paddy stool, the whores winking him as they walk their side. On Christian Mass at Advent Lodge, New Zealand, after a Lenti illness, the Reverend Mr. Easterling of Pentecostitis, no followers by bequest, fanfare all private. Gone where glory waits him, Ball, bulletist, but not here yet. Maxwell, Clark. Cummings under articles, but finished the Borgias. From the wet on the beer through the burr in the dark to the bottle of the Born. Is Al and the highest, but row re his root. Filled fanned of hackleberries, when his all was tuck and toss up for him as a youngster to fall foo of Hockenbechers, wherein he had gorged the use of raisin. Adds aliment, des doles, wraps rustics, tamps turmoil. Says seed enough for a semination, but sows skivvies on the sly. Learned to speak from hand to mouth till he could talk Irish with his eyes shut. Hacked his way through hick-hack hocks, but hanged for his help from their hereafters. Ryltor, Ennislake, Bin and Balls, to say nothing a talk of Newcomen. The gleam of the glow of the shine of the sun through the dark of the dearth on the blush of the brick of the wild V of Barnaham has thus turned to brown. These died to Tartanham, rue root, dulse, bracken, teasel, fuller's ash, sundew, and cress. Long gone, but not forgotten, stood his sharp assault of famine, but grew girther, girther, and girther. He has 24 or so cousins germinating in the United States of America, and a namesake with an initial difference in the once Kingdom of Poland. His first's a young Rose, and his second's French-Egyptian, and his whole means a slump at Christie's. Fourth of his pierced part came the woman of his dreams, blood thicker, then water, last trade overseas. Bishop of Glintylook, Earl of Hode. You and I are in him surrendered by Bryn Wilbons. Ellen's flea polt perhaps, but Huang Chang every time. He one was your of high big pipey boys, but fancy him as smoking fags his time of life. Mount of Mish, Mel of Moy. Had 2 cardinal ventures and 3 capital sinks. Has a peep in his pocketbook and a packet boat in his keep. BVH, BLG, PPM, TDS, BBD, TCH, LON. Is Breakfates, Lunger, Diener, and Super. As the streets were paved with cold, he felt his Tipperary. Taught himself skating and learned how to fall. Distinctly dirty, but rather a dear. Hoveth chieftains everywhere, with mortar. Ostman Effendi, Serge Padishaw. Bases too many and out-preempts all his parasites. First of the Fenians, Roi des Fainéants. His tiara of scones was held unfillable, till one Liam Fail felled him in Westminster. Was struck out of his situm when he rode solely to Damascus, and to our appalling predicament brought us plagues from Budapest. Put a match head on an aspen stalk and set the living afire. Spared the rod and spoiled the lightning. Married with cakes and repunked with pleasure. Till he was buried, how happy was he, and he made the welkins ring with up Micawber. Guard at the top of the staircase, carrion on the mat of straw. The false hood of a spindler web chokes the cave mouth of his unsightliness, but the nestlings that live in his leaf screens sing him a lover of our booties. We strike hands over his bloodied war sheet, but we are pledged entirely to his green mantle. Our friend Wyke Legal, our swearer foe. Under the 4 stones by his streams who vanished the wassail bowl at the joy of shells. Mora and Laura had a hill of a high time looking down on his confusion, till firm look in readiness, forward spare and the windfoot of Curragh strewed the lake mist of Lego over the last of his fields. We darkened for you, falterer, in the year of morning, but we'll fiddle to the dim twinklers when the streamy Morven light calls up the sunbeam. his striped pantaloons, his rather strange walk. Hereditatis columna erecta, hagion chiton eraphon. Not the nap for the nuns, but crows cheerio when they get ecunemical. Is a simultaneous equator of eliminated integras when 3 upon 1 is by inspection improper. Has the most conical hot piece of Confucianist heronym, and that chuff-chuffist chin-chin of his is like a footsie kangulu around Tai Shantyland. He's as globeful as a gasometer of lithium and luridity, and he was thrice 10 annular years before he wallowed round Regent Circus. The cable stone at the coping of his cairn is a canine constant, but only an American could approximate the appropriosity of his at last's allongement. Sticklered rights and lefts that bed us down in his hunt for the boar truth, but made his end with the moderates that came at him in Camden Street. A Hannibal in exhaustive conflict, an Otho to return. Burning body to agar air on melting mountain in wooing wave. We go into him, sleepy children, we come out of him, strugglers for life. He divested to save from the Mrs. Drownings their rival queens, while Grogshaw, Bragshaw, and Renshaw made off with his store and clothes. Taxed and rated, licensed and rented. His 3-faced stone head was found on a White Horse Hill, and the print of his Costello's feet is seen in the goat's grass circle. Pull the blind, toll the deaf, and call dumb, lame, and halty. Miraculone monstrucilin. Let the applause at the creation, and hiss the snake charmer of her stays. Hounded become haunter, hunter become fox. Harrier, Marrier, Terrier, Tav. Olaf the Oxman, Thorker the Tourable. You feel he is Vespasian, yet you think of him as Aurelius. Wargamore, trader Tory, socialist, commonizer. Made a summer assault on our shores, and Beak Giddy got his sands full. First he shot down Raglan Road, and then he tore up Marlborough Place. Cromlech Height and Cromwell Hill were his far-famed feet rests, when our lurch as loud let free into the lubber he loved. Mare-shelled his ward moats and delimited the main. Netted before nibbling, can scarce turn a scale, but, grossed after meals, weighs a town in himself. Banbar prayed for his conversion, Burla missed that grand old voice. A colossus among cabbages, the melarancitron of fruits. Larger than life, doughtier than death. Gran Turco, Orege Formant. Luxemburger, Liperlin. The sparkle of his genial fancy, the depth of his calm sagacity, the clearness of his spotless honor, the flow of his boundless benevolence. Our family furbear, our tribal turnpike. Query was he invincible, and Cour was he burged. Partitioned Erskaholm, united Irishman. He took a swig at his own Mayfair, but he tested a bit gawky, and as for the salmon, he was coming up in him all life long. Komm eile dich, Heckleberry, and Sawyer thee, Warden. Silent as the bee in honey, stark as the breath on hawk. Costello, Kinsella, Mahoney, Moran, though you rope Emric, your home ruler is Dan. Figure right, he is hoisted by the scurf of his shaggy neck. Figure left, he is rationed in isobaric patties among the crew. One asks, was he poisoned? One thinks, how much did he leave? ex-gardener, Riesengebirger, fitted up with planturous existences, would make Rosie O'Grady, Mite's little hose. Taut sheets and scuppers awash, but the oil-silk MacLeapsterpet mix his aquascutum. The enjoyment he took in K-women, the employment he gave to G-men. Sponsor to a squad of piercers, ally to a host of Rawleys. Against lightning, explosion, fire, earthquake, flood, whirlwind, burglary, third party, rot, loss of cash, loss of credit, impact of vehicles. Can rant as grave as oxtail soup, and chat as gay as a Porto flippant. Is unhesitant in his unionism, and yet a bigoted nationalist. Sylvia Kohler is shy of him, but Rosenhosens knows the joke. Shows the sinews of peace in his chest or wars. Thief of home, 939 years of copyhold. Is all days open for Polemy Polity's cake when he is not sometimes closed for the love of Janus? Sucks life's elixir from the petty pickles of the Jewess, and rolls and sulks if any popeling runs down the Huguenots. Boomerport, Wallesley, Ubermarschall Blaucher and Supercharger, Monsieur Ducrot. Mr. Mudson, Master Gardener. To one he's just paunch and judex, to another full of beans and brilliants. Hallucination, Koshman, ectoplasm. Passed for black sheep, till he grew white woolly. Was dramatized by Macmilligan's daughter and put to music by one Schubert. All Fitzpatricks in his emirate remember him, the boys of Watford hail him Baboo. Indanified himself with borrowed tribute and was shanked publicly to Brixtol. Was given the light in dry orchards and entombed in 3 plexes. His likeness is in terquit, and he giveth rest to the rainbowed. Libriety, fraternity, and quality. His reverse makes a virtue of necessity, while his obverse mars a mother by invention. Beskilled his gunwale, and he's the second imperial, anti-points, unhooked tenters, and he's lath and plaster. Calls upon all thing when he fails to appeal to each of us. Basilius, Ardri, Kongs Emma, Rex Regulorum. Stood into D mouth, then backed broadside on Bola Cleaver. Either Eldorado or Ultimate Thole. A kraal of feud fires, a crawl of 5 pubs. Laid out lashings of laveries to hunt down his family ancestors, and then pled double trouble or quick quits to hush the buckers up. Threw peblets for luck over one's sodden shoulder, and dragooned pea-plates armed to their teeth. Pepped as Gaudio Gambrinus, grim as Potter the Grave. Ace of Arts, Deuce of Demimons, Trouble of Clubs, Fear of Spades. Cumbrum, twin icy nurses for a drum, but tread to Uno tips the scale. Reeled the title roll opposite a brace of girdles in silver on the screen, but was sequenced from the set as crookback by the even more titulars, Rick, Dave, and Barry. He can get on as early as the 22nd of Mars, but occasionally he doesn't come off before Virginti-Quinquit Germinal. His Indian name is Hapapusi Sobjibwe, and his number in arithmosophy is the stars of the plough. Took weapon in the province of the pike, and let fling his line on Eelvik. Moves in vicious circles, yet remuse the same. The drain rats bless his offals, while the park birds curse his floodlights. Portobello equadocta thercocta percorello. He pours into the soft-clad Shelbourne the hard cash earned in Watling Street. His birth proved accidental shows his death its grave mistake. Brought us giant ivy from the land of Junkers, and bewittered Apostolopoulos with the gale of his gall. While satisfied that soft, youthful, bright, matchless girls should bosom into fine, silk-clad, joyous, blooming young women, is not so pleased that heavy, swearsome, strong-smelling, irregular-shaped men should blot out active, handsome, well-formed, frank-eyed boys. Herald Hairyfair all over the wheat. Husband your aunt and endow your nepos. Hearken, but hush it, screen him and see. Time is an archbishopric, time was a tradesman's entrance. Backburn brooked with wrath, scale scarred by scow. His rainfall is a couple of knee-highs, while his mean grass temperature marked 3 in the shade. Is the melting point of snow and the bubbling place of alcohol. Has a tussle with the trulls and then does himself justice. Hinted at in the eschatological chapters of Humphrey's Justesse of the JPs, and hunted for by Theban recensers who sniff there's something behind the bug of the deaf. The king was in his corner wall milking Marks O'Murray, the queen was steep in amber, feeling fain and furry, the maids was midst the hawthorns shoeing up their hose, out pimps the backguards, pump and pump gun they goes. To all his 4 tellers he reared a stone, and for all his come-hethers he planted a tree. 40 acres, 60 miles, white stripe, red stripe, washes his fleet in another quarter. Woe Mr. Porter, so what shall he do? For he wanted to sit for Pimploco, but they've caught him to stand for Sue. Dutch Lord, overawes us. Headmount, king and martyr, Dunstung in the east, Petre le Poor in Petrin, Bath the Great by the exchange. He hastens towards dame's troth and wedding hand, like the Prince of Orange and Nassau, while he has Trinity left behind him, like bowl-beggar Bill the Bostonly. Brow of a hazel wood, pool in the dark. Changes blowwicks into bullocks, and a well of Artesia into a bird of Arabia. The handwriting on his face wall, the cryptochondroid siphonostomata in his expressions. His birth spot lies beyond the Hellespont, and his burial plot in the pleasant little field. Is the illest kiosk on the peninsula, and the youngest hostel in St. Scholarland. Walked many hundreds and many score miles of streets, and lit 1001 nightlights in hectares of windows. His great white cloak lies on 15 acres, and his little white horse decks by dozens our doors. O sorrow the sail and woe the rudder that were set for Mary Quay. His sons, the Huns, his Darkars, the Tartars, are plenty here today. Who repulsed from his burst the bomb bolts of Ostenton, and falchioned each flash down the duck in the deep. A personal problem, a locative enigma. Upright one, vehicule of arcanization in the field, lying chap, flood supplier of saliculation through a plains. A part of the whole as a port for a whale. Dear Hewitt Costello, equerry, we're delighted with our outing and are looking backwards to unearly summers from rhododendrons. is above the seed fruit level and outside the leguminiferous zone. When older links lock older hearts, then he'll resemble she. Can be built with glue and clippings, scrawled or voided on a buttress. The Night Express sings his story, the song of sparrow notes on his stave of wires. He crawls with lice, he swarms with saggots. Is as quiet as a musk, but can be as noisy as a synagogue. Was Stillman when his date was palmy, and Madeline when his nut was cracked. Suck up the seas, lap land at ease, one lip on his lap, and one cushion his crease. His porter has a mighty grasp, and his Baxter's the boon of broad white. As far as wind dries and rain wets and sun turns and water bounds, he is exalted and depressed, assembled and asundered. Go away, we are deluded, come back, we are disghosted. Board the Ostroph, leapt the Inferus, swam the Mabul, and flew the Moil. Like fat like tallow, of greasefulness, yea, of dripping greasefulness. Did not say to the old, did not say to the scorbutic. He has founded a house, Uru, a house he has founded, to which he has assigned its fate. Bears a raven gueulant on a fjeld doive. Ruse the halo of his valet when he appeared to his she-cook as haycock, emmet, boiro, tuaro, osterich, mangy, and skunk. Pressed the beer of ailed age out of the nettles of rashness. Put a roof on the lodge for him, and a cock in his pot pro homo. Was Depifer, then Panzer Censor, then Hortifex Magnus. The topes that tippled on him, the types that tippled off him. Still starts our hares, yet gates our goat. Pocketbook, packet boat, gap man gun run. The light of other days, dire dreary darkness. Our awful dead, Timur of torture. Puzzling, startling, shocking, nay, perturbing. Went puffing from King's Brock to new customs, doffing the gibbous off him to every breach of all size. With Pa's new haft and Papa's new health, his Papa's old cutlass Papa left us. When young-headed, old-shouldered, and middlish neck-aged about. Collar herring every daily, turget tarpon overnight. Silurion the chameleon that changed endocrine history by Leuven his loaf with 40 bannocks. She drove him, Dave, till he driv her blind up. The pigeons doves be perching all over him one day on Basler's Bridge, and the ravens doth be pitching their dark nets after him the next night behind Königstein's arbor. Tronf of the rep, Comf of the priv, Prosp of the pub. His head wood it's ideal if his feet are bolly clay. He crashed in the hollow of the park, trees down, as he soared in the vacuum of the phoenix, stones up. Looks like a molten bolter and sounds like a rude word. The mountain view, some lumen pale round a lamp of sucre in boiling water. 3 shots a paddy at up Blub's saddle. Made up to Miss McCormick nee McCarthy, who made off with Darley Dermot, swank and swarthy. Once diamond cut garnet, now dammit cuts grony. You might find him at the Florence, but watch out for him in Wynn's Hotel. There's his bow, and where's his leaker, and here lays his bequiet hearse, deep. Sweat Albioni, likeliest villain of the place. Henry Canterell Cochrane, Egotistas Limited. We take our tays and freeze our fleece round Satan's mounted foot. Built the Lund's kirk and destroyed the church's lands. Who guesses his title grabs his deeds. Fletch and Preeties, Fesh and Chaps. Artful Duke of Willesley. Huggleberry's funeral. Cock Kellycack. Heard in camera and excruciated. Boon when with benches billeted, ban if buckshot back shattered. Heaven gendered, chaos fated, earthborn. His father presumptively ploughed it deep on overtime, and his mother, as Olive wins, must have travailled her fair share. A footprints on the magazine, headman's unhorsed by searing sand. Honorary captain of the extemporized fire brigade, reported to be friendly with the police. The door is still open. The old stock color is coming back. Not forgetting the time you laughed at Elder Charterhouse's duck white pants and the way you said the whole township can see his hairy legs. By stealth of a curse, her auburn dress abaft his nape she hung. When his cattle became a hus scaldus, our Thorsteites set their lymphy on fire. His year letter concocted by master hands of essays, his hallmark imposed by the standard of road plate. A pair of pectorals and a triple screen to get a wind up. Lights his pipe with the rosin tree and hires a tow horse to haul his shoes. Cures slavey scurvy, breaks baron's boils. Called to sell polish and was found later in a bedroom. Has his seat of justice, his house of mercy, his cornucopias, and his stacks awry. Prospector, he had a Rucksacht. Retrospector, he holds the Holpen stake. Won the freedom of New York for the minds of Jugoslaves. Acts active, peddles in passivism, and is a gorgon of self-righteousness. Pours a laugh's worth of his ill-formation over a lamb's worth of salt. Half heard the single maiden's speech Labelle spun to her grand mount, and hold a lifetime by his ain fireside, wondering was it Hebrew set to himmeltones or the quicksilver song of quaternions. His troubles may be over, but his doubles have still to come. The lobster pot that crabbed our keel, the garden pet that spoiled our squeezed peas. He stands in a lovely park, sea is not far, importunate towns of X, Y, and Z are easily overreached. Is an excrescence to civilized humanity and but a wart on Europe. Wanna made sing signs to sound sense, and yet he wanna get all his flesh numet modes truly plural and plausible. Has excessively large rings and is uncustomarily perfumed. Lusteth as he listeth the clear whisper of his semise. Is a prince of the Fingalian in a hiberniad of hoolies. Has a hodge to bury him, and a Frenchie to curry him, and a Brabanson for his beater, and a Fritz at his switch. Was waylaid by a Parker, and beshotten by a Buckley. Kicks lintels when he's cuppy, and casts Jacob's arrowroots, dime after dime, to poor wave strays on the parish. Reads the charms of H.C. Anderson all the weeks of his evening, and the crimes of Yvonne the Torrible every strong day morn. Soaps you soft to your face, and slaps himself when he's baddened. Owns the bulgiest bung barrel that ever was tip-tapped in the privis of the Mullingar Inn. was born with a Noor silver tongue in his mouth, and went round the coast of Iron with his left hand to the scene. Raised but 2 fingers, and yet smelt it would day. For whom it is easier to found a sea in Eblana than for I or you to find a double tie in Amsterdam. To live with whom is a life mayor, and to know whom a liberal education. Was dipped in hoily olives and chrismed in St. O'Toole's. He is cricket on the earth, but annoys the life out of predicants. Still turns the Deur's ear of Darius to the now thoroughly infuriated one of God. Made men with juds that jerk, and minted money among many. Likes the 6-a-cup pudding when he's come whom, sweet whom. Has come through all the eras of life's adventure, from noonshine and champagne down to clouds and pottled porter. Willem the First, Heinrich the Arthur, Charles the Second, Bridget the Third. If a mandrake shriek to convulsions at last surviving his birth, the white duck will wail bitterly over the rotter's resurrection. Loses weight in the moonlight, but girds girder by the sundawn. With one touch of nature set a wheeled world a grin, and went within a sheet of tissue paper of the option of 3 jails. Who could see at one blick a salmon taken with a lance, hunters pursuing a doe, a swallow ship in full sail, a white robe lifting a host. Faced flappery like old King Knut, and turned his back like Cincinnatus. Is a far and more far, and a whore father naked bucker in villas old as new. Squats a quart and cracks a quaint when he's flagging in town and on haven. Blows whiskery around his summit, but stets stout upon his footles. Stutters for he falls, and goes mad entirely when he's waked. Is Tim to the pearly morn, and Tomb to the morning night. And an he had the best bun-baked bricks in bold Babylon for his pitching place, he'd be lost for the want of his wan, wobbling wall. Answer: Finn McCool. 2. Does your mother know your mic? Answer: When I turn me optics from such urban prospects, 'tis my filial's bosom doth behold with pride that pontificator and circumvallator with his damn knight garrulous slip by his side. An alive, the lisp of her, 'twould Grieg mountains whisper her, and the bergs of Iceland melt in waves of fire, and her spoon me spondies, and her drickle me on the knees, make the rageous Ossian kneel and quaff a lyre. If Dan stain, Anne's dirty. If he's plain, she's purty. If he's fain, she's flirty. With her auburn streams, and her coy cajoleries, and her dabbling drolleries, for to rouse his rudder up, or to drench his dreams. If hot Hammurabi, or cowled Ecclesiastes, could espy her pranklings, they'd burst bounds agin, and renounce their ruings, and denounce their doings, for river and iver, and a night. Amen. 3. Which title is the true-to-type motto in lieu for that tick-for-teak thatchment painted with one darkness, where a snake is under clover, and birds a prowler in the rookeries, and a Magda went to monkey's house, and a river part was spotted. Which is not Witchcroft Horord, nor Austerholm Dreischluss, not Haroldsby Grocer, not Vat and Can Vintner, not Houseboat and Hive, not Noxater Bell, not O'Phainix Coal Prince, not Wone Square Rumiak, not Eblon Downs, not Ledesa Lemieux, not Benjamin's Lee, not Tholomeus Warrington, not Antwerp, not Mosca, not Corries, not Weirs, not the Arch, not the Smug, not the Dodge House, not the Juval, nothing grand, nothing splendid, Greyhound or Spleetle, neither erat est erit, nor non mici sed Lucifero? Answer. Thine obesity, O civilian, hits the felicitude of our orb. 4. What Irish capital city, of 2 syllables and 6 letters, with a Celtic origin and a nuinous end, dust, can boast of having A. the most extensive public park in the world, B. the most expensive brewing industry in the world, C. the most expansive peopling thoroughfare in the world, D. the most philohippac theobibus population in the world? And harmonize your ABCD responses. Answer. A. Delphos. And when ye'll hear the gold hammers of my heart, my floxy loss, bing-banging again the ribs of your resistance, and the tender bolts of my rivets working to your distraction, ye'll be shivering with all your dinful sobs when we'll go riding a coper curly, you with your orange garland, and me with my conny cordial, down the greaseways of rollicking into the waters of wetted life. B. Dork. And sure, where can you have such good old chimes anywhere, and leave you, as on the mesh, and how 'tis I would be engaging you with my plovery soft accents, and descanting up over the scene be under me of your loose wines in their harrowfall, with them 2 loving loofs braceleting the slims of your ankles, and your mouth's flower rose and sinking after the soapstone of silvery speech. C. Noblet. Ische, why wouldn't we be happy, a Vourneen? On the mill's money he'll soon be leaving you, as soon as I've my own Brookline Georgian mansion's lawn to recruit upon, by Dr. Cheek's special orders, and my copper's panful of soybeans and Irish in my east hand, and a James's Gate in my west, after all the arrears and erroribus of comparative and bottled history, and your good self churning over the new-leafed butter. More power to you, the choicest and the cheapest from Atlanta to Oconee, while I'll be drowsing in the garden. D. Dalway. I hooked my thoroughgoing trotty the first down Spanish place. Mayo I make, Tuam I take, Sligo sleek, but Galway's grace. Holy eel and sainted salmon, chucking chub and ducking dace. Rod iron's not your equal, says she, lapping half the lane. ABCD. A bell on Sheldall steeple, on Bilgo Masplon Prismos people. Shan't praise gone ness our faced moan neeple, our prame shandy pen, pay name moi fee pence, moi nay non equal. 5. What slags of a love lad would retten smutty flasks, emped out old men's, milk witches gate, scare off Jack and Jill's fra tittle landing, smooth pick waste papish pastures, inside's man, outsider's angle, spring dirtied water, bear around village, newses, tobaggan and Swedes, plain general kept, Loudon on the kirk peel, foot treats given to Malafides, outskreek, help, help, nor his hair after buggalores, might underhold 3 barnets, puts polish crotty bots, night coverall fire glims, serves time till bays, grindstone his kniveses, fullest boarded, lewd men of the method in godliness, Perchance he news and then sits in the spoorwagon, XWCA or ZWCU, doorsteps limited or bay windows bros swabber preferred, Walter Clausettus and Sons with the HE chimneys and company not to screeve, will, on advices, be bacon or stable hand, must be gripe, false standingly iris language, Jublender or North Quain bigger preferred, all duties, kine rights, family feud, outings fived, may get ernst, no get combitch, profusional drink lords to please abstain. He is fatherlaw sound dict in mood mine pershoon, but El Connorman, nay, that must he isn't. Answer: poor old Joe. 6. What means the saloon slogan, summon in the house sweep diner? Answer: Tok. Gallery bit of the sales of cloth. Now and I have to beeswax the bringing in all the cloub of the porks to us. How I thought I knew his orthograph stain on the flowers of the linoleum. Oh, if me Ash and Ken could speak like Big Whittington, and he called me by me midden name. Tick. I am your honey-sugar, foot the bay. And who broke the dandlies, and who's seen the black cullen jam for tomorrow's big picnic? I hope it'll pour, praise the climate of all Ireland. I heard the grackles and I skimming the crock on all your sandwiches, fippence per leg per drake. Tuck. And who ate the last of the goose bellies that was moulden from measless years? And who left that there, and who put that there, and who let the Kilkenny stale the chump? Tech. And who was it propped the pot in the yard, and what in the name of St. Luke are you rubbing the side of the floor of the lobby with? Shite. Will you have a plateful? Tuck. 7. Who are those component partners of our societate? The doorboy, the cleaner, the soger, the crook, the squeezer, the lounger, the kerman, the tourabout, the mushroom sniffer, the bleaker blue tramp, the fun-pother plother, the Christyman boxer, from their Press Salée and Donnybrook Prater, and Roebuck's Campus, and the Ager around town, and Cromglen's grassy but Kimmich's champ, and Ashtown fields, and Cabra fields, and Finglas fields, and Santry fields, and the fields of Raheny and their fails, and Baldoyle to them, who are late comers all the year round by anticipation, are the porters of the passions in virtue of retro-ratiocination, and, contributing their confligent controversies of differentiation, unify their voxes in a vote of vaticination, who crunch the crusts of comfort to depredation, drain the meat from misery to incur intoxication, condone every evil by practical justification, and condemn every good to its own gratification, who are ruled, roped, duped, and driven by those numen fateful change-ending constancies, the feet keepers at our free laws, forsonet finds clusium, nightly consternation, fortnightly fornication, monthly misericordation, and omni-annual recreation. Doyles when they deliberate, but Sullivans when they are swordsed. Matey, Teddy, Simon, John, Peter, Andy, Barty, Philly, Jamesy Moore, and Tom, Matt, and Jakes McCourty? Answer: the Morpheos. 8. And how wore your Maggies? Answer: they wore loving, they love laughing, they laugh weeping, they weep smelling, they smell smiling, they smile hating, they hate thinking, they think feeling, they feel tempting, they tempt daring, they dare waiting, they wait taking, they take thanking, they thank seeking, as born, forlorn, in lore of love to live, and wife by wile and rile, and rule by rune of ruse, wreathed rose, and hose hold home. Yes, cometh the lope year, coach and four, sweet pack at my heart, picks one man more. 9. Now, to be on anew and basking again in the panorama of all floors of speech, if a human being, duly fatigued by his deity in the suti, having plenty of time on his gouty hands, and vacance of space at his sleepish feet, and as hapless behind the dreams of accuracy as any Camelot prince of Denmark, were, at this actual futile preterriting instant, in the states of suspensive examination, accorded, through the eye of a noodle, with an ear-sighted view of old Hope in Haven, with all the ingredient and egregient whites and ways to which, in the curse of his persistence, the course of his story will had been having recourses, the reverberation of not cracking oars, the reconjugation of note-binding eyes, the redissolusingness of mind-molded ease, and the thereby hang of the whole of it. Could such a nun, whilst even let come silences to come livethers, until in tempestuous knocks should catch the golly cry and spot Lucan's dawn, buy hold at once what is main and why it is twain, how one wants meat melts in t'other one's pointings, the sap rising, the folds falling, the nymph now nihilant round the girly head so becoming, the restless in the womb, and all the rivals to all see, shake again, O disaster, shake a loose, how starring. But Hank's got a bit of horse's nose, and Jeff's got the signs of Ham round his mouth, and the bow that spun beautiful pales as it palls. What rose root and orages grows gelb and green, blue out of the end of it. Violets died. Then what would that far gazer seem to seem self to seem seeming of, dim it all? Answer: a kaleidoscope. 10. What bitter's love but yearning? What sour love much but a breath burning, till she that draws to the smoke return? Answer: I know, Pipette. Of course, dear, but listen, precious. Thanks, pet. Those are lovely, Pitonnette, delicious. But mind the wind, sweet. What exquisite hands you have, you angel, if you didn't gnaw your nails. Isn't it a wonder you're not ashamed of me, you pig, you perfect little pigaline? I'll nudge you in a minute. I bet you use her best Parisian smear off her vanity table to make them look so rose-top, glow-stop, no-stop. I know her. Slight me, would she? For every jot I care. I can pay my club like she. 3 creamings a day, the first during her shower and wiped off with tissue. Then after clean-up, and of course before retiring. Be me shawl, when I think of that espos of a Clancarbury, the food brawler of the Socialist Party, with his black-leaded chest. Hello, Prendergast, that you, innkeeper? And all his 14 other fullback maulers or hurling stars, or whatever the Dagos they are, baiting at my Lord Honories, just because they won the egg and spoon there so overly provincial at Boldole. My Ailish S&T Sid makes his admiration. He is seeking an opening and means to be the first with me as his belle alliance. Andu mas no ple celoso. So do todas. Such is Spanish. Stoop a little closer feels delightsome simply, like Jolio and Romeo. I haven't felt so Turkish for ages and ages. Minds me of Squisius, the chocolate with a soul. Extraordinary. Why, what are they all, the mucky lot of them only? Sht. I wouldn't pay 3 hairpins for them. Pept. That's right, hold it steady. Leg me pull. Pull. Come back to Iran. Pooh. What are you nudging for? No, I just thought you were. Listen, loveliest. Of course it was too kind of you, miser, to remember my sighs and shockings, my often expressed wish when you were wondering about my trousseaux. And before I forget it, don't forget, in your extensions to my personality, when knotting my remembrance tie, Shoe Week will be trotting back with red heels at the end of the moon. But look what the fool bought, cabbage head. And, as I shall answer to gracious heaven, I'll always and always remind of snappy new girders, me being always the one for charms, with my very best and proud and gloving, even if he was to be the 1,000,000 miles my youth to live on, the rubberend Mr. Polkington, the quonium fleshmonger who Mother Braun solicited me for unlawful converse with her mug of October, pots on it, creaking around on his old shanks axle like a crusty old cornquake. Airman, waterwag, terrier, blazer. I'm fine, thanks ever. Huh. Oh, mind you, poo tickly. Shall I poo him a more? Funny spot to have a thingy. I'm terribly sorry, I swear to you I am. May you never see me in my figure how I sleep gracefully in my birthday pelts, seeing so tutu, and that her Blanche's manges may rot leprous off her, whatever winking Maggies I'll bet by your cut you go flirting after, with all the glass on her and the jumps in her stomachwear. Ha, I suspected she was. Sink her. May they fire her for a barren ewe. So she says, "Tay for thee." Well, I says, "Thanks so much," and desired she might not take it amiss if I esteemed her but an odd. If I did a tough turf, I'm not a mishy-missy. Of course I know, Pettist, you're so learningful and considerate in yourself, so friend of vegetables, you long-cold cat you. Please by acquiesca to meek my acquaintance. Coddling, snake-clad iciclist. My diaper has more life to it. Who drowned you, so young and drear man? Or are you pale with ink? Did a weep get past the gates of your pride? My tread on the clover, sweetness? Yes, the buttercups told me. Hug me, damn it all, and I'll kiss you back to life, my peachest. I mean to make you suffer, meddler, and I don't care this fig for contempt of courting. That I chid you, sweet sir? You know I'm tender by my eye. Can't you read my dazzling ones through me true? Bite my laughters, drink my tears. Pour into me volumes, spell me stark and spill me swooning. Transname me loveliness, now me and hear me for all times. I just don't care what my thwarters think. I'd risk a policeman passing by, Magrath, or even that beggar of a boots at the post. The flame? Oh, pardon. That was what? Ah, did you speak stuff? More poetries from Shakespeare's with glycorial music, or ejaculation from the garden of the soul? Of I be lipe in the immoralities? Oh, you mean the strangle for love and the survival of the prettiest? Yep, we open have causeries in the home. And once upon a week I improve on myself. I'm so keen on that new free woman with novel inside. I'm always as tickled as can be over man in a surplus by the lady who pays the rates. But I'm as pie as is possible. Let's root out Bram Stoker and give him the thrall of our lives. It's Dracula's night out. For creep's sake, don't make a flush. Draw the shades, curfew, and I'll beat any sonnemonk to love. Holy bug, how my highness would jump to make you flame your Harver Bannon in two, when I'd run my burning torchlight through your hammer jig if you had one. To adore me there and then cease to be? Whatever for, blossoms? If I am laughing with you? No, lovingest, I'm not so dying to take my rise out of you, adored. Not in the very least. True as God made Mama, hip-length modesty, coat mother. It's only because the reason is I'm only any girl, you lovely fellow of my dreams, and because old some booby is not around about my trysting of the tulipies, like that puff-pape bucking Deveren assoiling us behinds. What a nerve! He thinks that's what the Vespri is for. How wanes that hope in cleric's heart, who still pursues the adulterous art, cocksure that rusty gown of his will make fair Sue forget his phiz. Tame Schwips. Blessed Marguerite Moses. I hope they threw away the mold, or else we'll have balls horses and sourdough apples with their medical associations all over the place. But hold hard till I've got my latchkey vote, and I'll teach him when to wear what woman colors. On account of the gloss of the glazon. Hasabu Brawbees Isabeau Bell. And because, you pluckless lankerloot, I hate the very thought of you, and because, dearling, of course adorest, I was always meant for an engine dear from the French college to be musband, nom d'engin, when we do and contract with encho tencho solver, when you are married to reading and writing, which please business now won't be long, for he's so loopy on me, and I'm so leapy-like since the day he carried me from the boat, my saviour of Eros, to the beach, and I left on his shoulder one fair hair, to guide hand and mind to its softness. Ever so sorry. I beg your pardon, I was listening to every treasured word I said fell from my dear Maud's tongue. Otherwise, how could I see what you were thinking of your granny? Only I wondered if I threw out my shaving water. Anyway, here's my arm, pullet neck. Gracefully yours. Move your mouth towards mine's. More, preciousest. More on more. To please me, treasure. Don't be I'm not going to. Shh. Nothing. A cri-cri somewhere. Bye-bye. I'm fly. Here, Pippi, under the limes. You know, big tree are all against gravestone. They his tenancy. Garned on mand. So chip, chirrup, gigolo, for the lug of Migo. The little pastor, I go before you, so, and you're at my apron stage. Shy as him, Dovey? Must forget there's an audience. I have been lost, angel. Cuddle, ye divil ye. It's our toot-a-toot. Hear, hear, sensation. Let them, their whole 4 courtships. Let them. Big Ball and his boozers 11 makes 12 territorials. The old sod's hole that wants wide streets to commission their nuisance in, at the Mitchells v. Nichols. Ave selve aque vales. And my waiting 20 class birds sitting on their stiles. Let me finger their arithmetic. And you'll see if I'm self-thought. They're all of them out to please. Wait. In the main of the missile and of St. Eve's and all the holly. Hust, ahem. There's Ada, Bet, Celia, Delia, Ina, Fretta, Gilda, Hilda, Eta, Jess, Catty, Lou. They make me cough as sure as I read them. Mina, Nipper, Opsy, Paul, Queenie, Ruth, Saucy, Trix, Una, Vila, Wanda, Xenia, Eva, Salma, Phoebe, Thelma. And me. The reformatory boys is going in for the church, so we've all comfies like the group suppers and caught lip solution from anti-previdence under penancies for mortal sins. When their bride was married, all my bells began to ting. A ring, a rosa ring. Then everyone will hear of it. Whose's wishes is the farther to my thoughts. But I'll plant them a poser for their nomenclature. When they're out with the day nurse doing chaperone mall. Bright pigeons all over the world will fly with my mistletoe message round their love-ribboned necks and a crumb of my cake for each Chester Djever. We keeps all in sundry papers. In the Armalite, oh my darling. No, I swear to you by Philipsborough Church Dome and St. André's undershift, by all I hold secret from my world, and in my underworld of nighties and naughties, and in all the other wonderworlds. Close your, not must look, now open, pet, your lips, pipette. Like I used my sweet parted lipsibus with dawn, hollow hen of facetious memory taught me after the flannel dance, with the proof of love, up Smog Alley. The first night he smelled puder and I colored beneath my fan, pipetta mia, when you learned me the linguo to melt. Huloham would have ears like ours, the black-haired. Do you adore that, Silencioso? Are you enjoying this same little me, my life, my love? Why do you like my with me? Is it not divinely delicious? But in it buffer you? Missy, missy. Tell me till me thrill me comes. I will not break the seal. I am enjoying it still, I swear I am. Why do you prefer it's in these dark nets, if I may ask, my sweetikins? Shh, long ears is flying. No, sweetest, why would that annoy me? But don't. You want to be well slapped for that. Your delighted lips, love, be careful. Mind my duvetine dress above all. It's golded Sylvie, the newest sex tones with princess effect. For Rutland's blues got out of passion. So, my precious. Oh, I can see the coast, Chara. Don't tell me. Why, the boy in Sheep's Lane knows that. If I sell whose, dears? Was I sold here's, tears? You mean those conversation lozenges? How awful! The bold shame of me! I wouldn't, chickens, not for all the Juliets in the twinkly way. I could snap them when I see them winking at me in bed. I didn't did it so, my intended, or was going to or thinking of. Shh! Don't start like that, you wretch. I thought ye knew all and more, ye auctors, to explique to once the significat of their existence with your new Nivelon lead. It's only another queer fish or otter in Brinbru's damned old treacherous river again. God the Visigoths bless us and spare her, and give us rest from the bosso. Excuse me for swearing, love. I swear to the Sorosims on their trons of Wuyan, I didn't mean to, by this Alpen armlet. Did you really never, in all our Canterlang lives, speak close to a girl's before? No, not even to the charmer-maid? How morpholous! Of course I believe you, my own dear doting liest, when you tell me. As I'd live to, oh, I'd love to. Liz, I must whiz. Never that ever, or I can remember dear streaming faces, you may go through me. Never in all my whole white light of my matchless and pair. Or ever for bitter be the frucht of this hour. With my whiteness I thee woo, and bind my silk breasts I thee bound. Always, armory, amore and more. Till always thou lovest. Shh, so long as the locksmith laughs. 11. If you met on the binge a poor exiled from ailing, when the tune of his tremble shook shimmy on shin, while his contrary raged in the week of his wailing, like a rugulant pugilant linolin. If he maundered in misliness, plaining his plight, or played fox and lice, picking and dropping hip's teeth, or wringing his handcuffs for peace, the blind blighter, praying dieuf and dumb nostrums for somethings to ease. If he weeped while he leaped, and guffawed with a whimper, made cold blood a blue Monday, and no bones without fletch, taking kiss, cake or kick with a suck, sigh or simper, a diffle to larn and a dibble to letch. If the fain shinner pegged you to shave his marshal, wee skill-mustered shoal with his hoo-doo-doo, broking wind that to whiles woe-made sin he was partial, we don't think, Jones, we'd care to this evening, would you? Answer: No, blank ye. So you think I have impulsivism? Did they tell you I am one of the 46th? And I suppose you heard I had a wag on my ears? And I suppose they told you too that my role of life is not natural? But before proceeding to conclusively confute this begging question, it would be far fitter for you, if ye dare, to hesitate to consult with and consequentially attempt at my disposals of the same dime cash problem elsewhere. Naturalistically, of course, from the blink point of so eminent a spatialist. From it you will here notice, shot, upon my for the first remarking you, that the sophology of Bitchson, while driven as under by a purely dime urge, is not without his cash characteristics. Borrowed for its nonce ends from the fiery good mother Misfortune, who the lost time we had the pleasure, we have had our little recherche brush with, what shot? And as I further could have told you, as brisk as your DBC, behavioristically pailleté with a coat of homoid icing, which is in reality only a done-by-chance ridiculization of the who and where's hair's theorics of Weinstein. To put it all the more clumsily, the speech form is a mere surrogate, whilst the quality and tollity, I shall explex what you ought to mean by this, with its proper when and where and why and how in the subsequent sentence, are alternatively harrogate and arrogate, as the gates may be. Thales is a word often abused by many pessims. I am working out a quantum theory about it, for it is really a most tantalizing state of affairs. A pessim may frequent you to say, "Have you been seeing much of Thales and Thales those times?" Optimately meaning, "Will you put up a 3 of Irish?" Or a lady-eater may perhaps have casualized to you as you temptoed her à la sourdine. Off your plates. Is Thales de Thales, the sword-swallower, who is on at the criterium, the same Thales von Thales, the pence-crusher, no thank you, who runs his duly mile? Or is this perhaps a cleaner example? At a recent post-vortex peace investigation of a determinized case of chronic spinosis, an extension lecturer on the ague, who out of matter of form was turging his Caesars, Dr. Shed Ubeleft, borrowed the question, "Why is which suchmens Thales qualis?" To whom, as a fetter of Macht, Dr. Gedankje of stout girth, who was wiping his whistle, hoarsely retorted, "While thou beest one zoom of a whore." Thales and Thales originally mean the same thing. Hit its qualis. Professor Löwybruller, though, as I shall promptly prove, his whole account of the Sennacherib as distinct from the Shalmaneser sanitational reforms and of the Mr. Shakles and Dr. Hyde's problem in the same connection, differs toto celo from the fruit of my own investigations. Though the reason I went to Jericho must remain for certain reasons a political secret, especially as I shall shortly be wanted in Coventry, I congratulate myself, for the same and other reasons, is being again hopelessly vitiated by what I have now resolved to call the diamond fallacy. In his talked-off confession, which recently met with such a leonine uproar on its escape after its confinement, why am I not born like a Gentile man, and why am I now so speakable about my own eatables? Feigenbaumblatt and Father, Budapest, 5688 AM. Wholeheartedly takes off his gabber coat and wig, honest, doughty fellow, in his public interest, to make us see how, though, as he says, by all's will, the inception and the descent and the endswell of man is temporarily wrapped in obscenity. Looking through at these accidents with the faroscope of television, this nightlife instrument needs still some subtractional betterment in the readjustment of the more refrangible angles to the squeals of his hypothesis on the outer tin sides. I can easily believe heartily in my own most spacious immensity as my own house and microbe-most cosm, when I am reassured by ratio that the cube of my volumes is to the surfaces of their subjects as the sphericity of these globes. I am very pressing for a parliamentary motion this term, which, under my guidance, would establish the deleteriousness of decorousness in the morbidization of the modern man-about-woman type, is to the ferocity of Farinelli's vacuum. I need not anthropologize for any intentional. I must here correct all that school of Neo-Italian or Paleo-Parisian scholar of tinkers and spanglers who say I'm wrong parce que, out of revulsion from Romanitis, I want to be. Downtrodden on my foes, Professor Levi Brulo F.D. of Sex Weinman Eitlenecht finds, from experiments made by him with his Nuremberg eggs on the one hand and the watch's cauldron upon the oven, though it is ostensibly a case of cat's rebellions cooling the Pope's back, because the number of square faces in weekly circulation will not be appreciably augmented by the nether slogging of my cupola clods. What the romantic in rags pines after, like all Tom Tompions haunting crevices for a deadbeat escapement, and what he importunes our midlight for in a Cornish with the mortadella tradition, is the poorest common on-guardian waste of time. His ever-present toes are always in retaliation out through his overpassed boots. Hear him squeak. Take heed to that loose swallower how he bolo the bat. Tyro Arture. When Malochy won the couple of coals, when we were stripping in number 3, I would like the neat drop that would malt in my mouth, but I fail to see when. I am purposely refraining from expounding the obvious fallacy as to the specific gravitatis of the two deglutables implied, nor to the lapsus lacquer associated with the Royal Gorge, though students of mixed hydrostatics and pneumadipsics will after some difficulties grapple away with my Meinungs. Merden alors, as old Marcellus Cambrianus puts it. But on Professor Laverly's Abriler's F.D. Ph. Doctor's showings, the plea, if he pleads, is all posh and rubbish on a melodiontic scale, since his man's when is no other man's quondam. Mine, thank you. While, for aught I care for the contrary, the all is where in lovers war, and the plain where me art sore, you'd aisy rouse a thunder from, and where I cling true, 'tis there I climb tree, and where innocent looks best, pick, there's holly in his eyes. As my explanations here are probably above your understandings, lateral Bretons, though as augmentatively uncomparisoned as Cadwan, Cadwallon, and Cadwalloner, I shall revert to a more expletive method, which I frequently use when I have to sermo with muddle-cross pupils. Imagine for my purpose that you are a squad of urchins, sniffly-nosed, gosling-necked, clotty-headed, tangled in your lacings, tingled in your pants, etc., etc. And you, Bruno Nowlan, take your tongue out of your inkpot. As none of you knows Javanese, I will give all my easy-free translation of the old fabulist's parable. Alaboy Minor, take your head out of your satchel. Audi, Joe Peters. Ex-Audi, facts. The Mookse and the Gripes. Gents and ladymen, full stoppers and semi-colonials, hybrids and lubbards. Eins within a space, and a very wide space it was, woonde Mookse. The lonesomeness was all too lonely, Archon sits like, broady oval, and a Mookse he would a walking go. My hood, cries Anthony Romeo. So one grand summer evening, after a great morning and his good supper of gammon and spittish, having flabled his eyes, pillowed his nostrils, vaticanated his ears, and palliumed his throat, he put on his impermeable, seized his impugnable, harped on his crown, and stepped out of his immobile de rure albo, so called because it was chock full of master plasters, and had borgeously let out gardens strewn with cascadas, pentecostecas, orthodox and currycombs, and set off from Ludstown a spasso to see how badness was badness in the weirdest of all possible ways. As he so set off with his father's sword, his lancia spezzata, he was girded on, and with that between his legs and his tar heels, our once and only brag spear, he clanked to my clinking, from vetoes to three-top, every inch of an immortal. He had not walked over a pent yet of parsecs from his asylum, when at the turning of the Shinshone Lantern, near St. Bowery's without his walls, he came, secunding to the onest of prophecies, omnis limina permanent, upon the most unconsciously boggy-looking stream he ever locked his eyes with. Out of the collines it took a rise by daubing itself ninon. It looked little and it smelt of brown, and it thought in narrows and it talked so shallow. And as it rin, it dribbled like any lively pearl-a-daisy. My, me and me, little down dream, don't I love thee? And, I declare, what was there on the yonder bank of the stream that would be a river, parched on a limb of the alum, bald downright, but the gripes? And no doubt he was fit to be dried, for why had he not been having the juice of his times? His pips had been neatly all drowned on him. His pulps were charging odors every older minute. He was quickly forgetting the dresser's disdain on the flyleaf of his fronts. And he was quietly forgiving the bailiff's distrain on to the bulk side of his cul de pompe. In all his specious heavings, as he lived by Optimus Maximus, the Mookse had never seen his Dubville brooder on low so nigh to a pickle. Adrian, that was the Mookse now's assumptinome, stuck still vis-a-vis to the gripes in an accessit of orignation. But all Mookse must to mood end, much as all routes or stairways or wasters ways, in roaming run through room. Hick saw a stone, singularly illed, and on Hock's stone seater sat Huck sate, which it filled quite preposterously, and by acclimatation to its fullest justoriorum, and whereupon, with his unfallable encyclicling upon his all-oilable, Diopetrarch of the West, and the athemist-sprinkled pederact he always walked with, Diosdedit, cheek by jowl with his fisherman's blag, Bellua triumphans, his every way added to Wallet's collectium, for ye longer he lived, ye broader he bethought of it, the fatter, the sum, and the haul it all cost. He looked the first and last Mika-like lakeness of Quartus the fifth, and Quintus the sixth, and Sixtus the seventh, giving all night sitting to Leo the 40 fines. Good appetite us, Sir Mookse. How do you do it? Cheeped the Gripes in a very wiggy Modillanian voice, and the jackasses all within ball laughed and brayed for his intentions, for they knew their sly toad Lowry now. I am raromonium blessed to see you, my dear Mouster. Will you not perhaps tell me everything, if you are pleased, Sanity? All about Orne and Lithiel and all's all in all about Orne and Lysaeus, nay? Think of it! O miserendissimus retemptor! A Gripes! Rats! Bellowed the Mookse most telesphorously. The Cossionator, the Sissimusses and the Sossimusses in their Roban houses quailed to hear his tardy noise at all. For you cannot waken a silken nouse out of a horse, or blast yourself and your anathema inferioribus. No, hang you for an animal rurale. I am superbly in my supremest pontiff. Abase you, baldy queens. Gather behind me, satraps. Rots. I am till infinity obliged with you, bowed the Gripes, his wine having gone to his paltry head. I am still always having a wish on all my extremities. By the watch, what is the time, Pace? Figure it, the pining peaver, to a Mookse. Ask my index, mund my Achilles, swell my obulum, wash up my nace serene, answered the Mookse, rapidly by turning Clement, Urban, Eugenius, and Celestian in the most foremost of good Grogery humours. Quote a whore, that is quite about what I came on my missions with my paladin's intentions, Lordy Beliter, to settle with you, Barbaroos. Let Thor be Orlog. Let Pauline be Irene. Let you be Beaton. And let me be Los Angeles. Now measure your length. Now estimate my capacity. Well, Sour? Is this space of our couple of hours two-dimensional for you, temporizer? Will you give you up? Comment? Fört it. Sancta Patientia. You should have heard the voice that answered him. Culla Vaselina. I was just thinking about that, Swiss Mookse, but for all the rhyme on my raisins, if I cannot make my submission, I cannot give you up, the Gripes whimpered from the nethermost of his wanhope. I shall as so bound be will so thou too says it. My tumble, Loudy Bullocker, is my own. My felicity is too fit in one stock end. In my special in excelsis, they belowing things above. But I will never be abler to tell your honoriousness. Here he near lost his limb. Though my corked father was spotted pseudo-waiter, whose a cloak you wear. Incredible? Well, hear the inevitable. Your temple, sus increbro. Semper ex communicambiam bisumers. To Gorios in new robe or to Curias in ashes. Nova Rome, my creature, believe and blaves. My building space in Ionine City is always to let to Leon-like men, the Mookse, with immediate jurisdiction, constantinously concluded. What a grammar for the shape-ruck Gripes. And I regret to proclaim that it is out of my temporal to help you from being killed by Inchies. What a thrust. As we first met each other, knew where so early. Poor little so-sieved sub-squash Gripes, I begin to feel contemption for him. My side, thank the Cretals, is as safe as Mother Hour's houses, he continued, and I can see from my holy dome what it is to be wholly sane. Union jog and be joined to yog. Parisis, tu sais, crucicrux, belongs to him who parises himself. And there I must leave you subject for the pressing. I can prove that against you. Wait a momentum, mein gut enemy, or Cospol's not our star. I bet you this dozen odd, this voluminous dozen odd. Quas primas, but 'tis bitter to compose my knowledge's fructose of tomes. Elevating, to give paint to his blick, his jeweled pederect to the all misty Sielung, he lucky struck bluild out a few should-be scintillants, a cloister of starabouts over maples, a Luciolis in Teresa Street, and a stop sign before Sophie Barrett's. He gathered together the odd dozens of his volumes, Greek, Latin, and Rosicrucian, onto the laps of his prolegs, into armfuls once scuppered, and set about his wider proof. He proved it pontifically, in a most consistorious allocution, well Hurner's dry and dry-sick times, and vremiament tu sais, to the extinction of Nicklaus altogether, Nicklaus Aloysius having been the one scribes' pop-willed nimbum, by Nuclidius and by Anaxagoras, by Mumpson and by Thompson, by Erasmus and by Arminius, by Anacletus the Jew, and by Malachi the augurer, and by Capon's collection, and all the mummy scripts in Sigbogue's junk room. And after that, with Cheeky's gelatine and all-day brandy's formulon, he reproved it altogether, were not in that order, sundering in some different order. Alter 330 and 100 times, by the binomial diorem and the Punic walls and the int, the Inkelspill legends and the rule of the hoop and the blessings of expedience and the Jew, the jugicants of Pontius Pilax, and the chapters for the cunning of the chapters of the conning fox by tail. While that Mookseus with pre-procession and with pro-precession, duplicitly and deplacidly, was promulgating ipso facts and sad contrast, this rascally Gripus he had all but succeeded in monophysicking his ill subordinates. But as awful as he had caught his base Seminoius Sagnactius to combutinate upon the syllipses of his Aspilouts, and the egg-porosers of his Hegio and Pnumax to synerethize with the bread-chestviousness of his Sviatovial Ducos, so farfully the logothards of his sacularies were fond at variance with the synodals of his Sompulium, and his babs-kissed Nepogrisimos got the hoof from his Filiochus. After 1,000 years, O gropes, con my sheepskins, thou will be belied to the world, in skate Mookse the pious. After 1,000 years, answered Gripes the Gregory, be the goat of MacHammets, Mookse, yours may be still more both-eared. Us shall be chosen as the first of the last by the electress of Valhallow, observed the Mookse nobly, for, par the unicum of Eleligiacs, us am in our stabulary, and that is what Ruby and Roby fall for, blissim. The pills, the nasal wash, Yardleys, the army man cut. As British as Bond strict, and as straight cut as when that broken-arched traveller from New Zealand. We, come fussed the Gripes limply, shall not even be the last of the first, we hope, when oust are visitated by the veiled horror. And, he added, me are relying entirely, see the 43rd of Elizabeth, on the weightiness of Mia's breath. Puffert. Unsight bared im Busche, relentless foe to social and business success. Huria Lane. It might have been a happy evening, but... And they vituperated each and other, canis et coluber, with the wildest ever wielded since Teriastinus lashed Pissas Fatium. Unuchorn, Angulant, Juvoloid, Uskibeak, and bullfolly answered Volleyball. Nuvoletta in her light dress, spun of Sistine shimmers, was looking down on them, leaning over the Benny stars and listening all she childishly could. How she was brightened when Scholdrups in his glaubering hochskied his Welkinstock, and how she was overclused when Knees Knobs on his swivel was make-acting such a pulse of himself. She was alone. All her Nubid companions were asleeping with the squirrels. Their mither, Mrs. Moonan, was off in the first quarter scrubbing the back steps of number 28. And as for the father, that scant, he was up in Norwood's soca parlour eating oceans of Woking's blemish. Nuvoletta listened as she reflected herself, though the heavenly one with his constellatria and his emanation stood between, and she tried all she tried to make the Mookse look up at her. But he was far too adiaptotously far-seeing, and to make the gripes hear how coy she could be, though he was much too systematically auricular about his ends to heed her. But it was all miles vapor moist. Not even her faint reflection, Nuvologia, could they take their noses off, for their minds, with intrepifide fate and bungless curiosity, were conclaved with Heliogoblius and Commodus and Enobarbaros, and whatever the coordinal dickens they did, as their Damprauch of Papiers and Buchstabs said. As if that was their spiration. As if theirs could reparate her queendom. As if she would be third party to search on such proceedings. She tried all the winsome, wonsome ways her four winds had taught her. She tossed her sfuma stelliacinous hair like la princesse de la petite Bretagne, and she rounded her mignon's arms like Mrs. Cornwallis West, and she smiled over herself like the beauty of the image of the pose of the daughter of the Queen of the Emperor of Ireland, and she sighed after herself, as were she born to bride with Tristis, Tristio, Tristissimus. But, sweet Madonnine, she might fair as well have carried her Daisy's worth to Florida. For the Mookse, a dog-mad aconite, were not amused, and the gripes, a doubly boused Catholic, was painfully obliviscent. I see, she sighed. There are manner. The sis of the wisp of the sigh of the soft sing at the air of the ver gros or arundo of a long one in medias res. And shades began to glitter along the banks, creepsing, dusk unto dusk. And it was as glooming as gloaming could be in the waste of all peaceable walls. Metamnesia was also on one coloroform brune. Cytherea, Spiane and Orland, enamorous and unnumerous. The Mookse had a sound eyes right, but he could not all hear. The gripes had light ears left, yet he could but ill see. So he ceased, tongue and trit, and it was never so ever so dusky of both of them. But still Moo thought on the deeps of the Unth he would profound come the Morocks, and still Gry field of the scribes he would escape if by Grice he had luck in ups. Oh, how it was dusk! From Valle Maraya to Gracia Plana, dormimas deco. Adieu, adieu. It was so dusk that the tears of night began to fall, at first by ones and twos, then by threes and fours, at last by fives and sixes of sevens, for the tired ones were weeping, as we weep now with them. Oh, 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 par la pluie. Then there came down to the thither bank a woman of no appearance. I believe she was a black with chills at her feet, and she gathered up his hoariness the Mookse, metamorphosely where he was spread, and carried him away to her invisible dwelling, that's heights, Aquila Rapex, for he was the holy, sacred, solemn, and posh-up bit of her bosh-up's apron. So you see, the Mookse had reason, as I knew and you knew and he knew all along. And there came down to the hither bank a woman of all important, though they say that she was comely, spite the cold in her heat. And, for he was as like it as blow it to a hawker's hank, she plucked down the gripes, torn panicky auto-tone, in Anjou from his limb, and carried away his beauty tubes with her to her unseen shieling. It is terrore seli. And so the poor gripes got wrong, for that is always how a gripes is, always was, and always will be. And it was never so thoughtful of either of them. And there were left now only an elm tree and but a stone, palled with pietress, sier but Saul. Oh yes, and Nuvoletta, alas. Then Nuvoletta reflected for the last time in her little long life, and she made up all her myriads of drifting minds in one. She cancelled all her engorgements. She climbed over the banisters. She gave a childy, cloudy cry. Nuée, nuée. A light dress fluttered. She was gone. And into the river that had been a stream, for 1,000 of tears had gone on her and come on her, and she was stout and struck on dancing, and her muddied name was Mrs. Liffey. There fell a tear, a single tear, the loveliest of all tears. I mean, for those Cry-Love Fables fans who are keen on the pretty, common-faced sort of thing you meet by Hope Harrods, for it was a leap tear. But the river tripped on her by and by, lapping as though her heart was brook. Why? Weh, oh weh! I so silly to be flowing, but I no canna stay. No applause, please. Bast. The Rome Scott rattle shaker will go round your circulation in due curses. Ella boy, Major, I'll take your reactions in another place after themes. Nolan Brown, you may now leave the classroom. Joe Peters, Fox. As I have now successfully explained to you my own natural-born rations, which are even in excess of my vaulty brain, ensure me that I am a Malthus more deserving case by genius. I'm armory, so herald me, but he's merely the size of his shirt. The Jonases were Johannizers in Lyoness before the first Schmieds started to forge. Foresee my stitch work. A Boche Beuglon in a field flam. Motto? Twist him and insult. Mookse makes for mooth, and his mooth makes for mastery, while gripes yields to guile, but his guile yield the faster he is faced in front and forced to acknowledge that the roarer rules the knave's Leonidas. Mookse. I could face a phalanx Philistine. And gripes. I could chore 'em with this jaw of mine. For I feel like Samson, Hamson, and Jan Jameson. But never the least, also I feel in sympathis for my ever-devoted friend and half a loaf-unwashed brother, Nakas Nokovic. Darling germ, darling smallpox, Horoses show. I could love that man like my own Ambo for being so baily clever. Though he is an awful Cyrillass, and I must slav to methodiousness. I want him to go and live like a Theobald in charge of the Night Brigade on Tristan da Cunha, Isle of Man overboard, where he'll make number 106 and be near inaccessible. The meeting of mahoganies be the waves, rementions me that this exposed side, though it pines for an umbrella of its own and needs a shelter belt of the true service sword to keep its poles clean, the weeping beeches, Pisea and Tilia, are in a wild state about it, ought to be classified, as Cricket-Butt Willowm and his 2 nurseryman advisors suggested, under genus inexhaustible, when we refloat upon all the butternut, sweet gum and manna ash shreds, etc., which is so purulent there, as if there was hawthorns in Currach Chaser, which ought to look as plain as a lodgepole to anybody until we are introduced to that Pineta Cotta of Vernie Rubens, where the Diodati is pictured for us in a pure stand, which we do not doubt he has a habitat of doing, but without those self-sown seedlings, which are a species of proof that the largest individual can occur at or in an olivation such as East Connor Hillock, where it mixes with food acacians and common sallies and is tender. Vox populus, as we say in Hickory Hockory, and I wish we had some more glasses of arbor vitae. Why root by the roadside or on over alum pot? Alderman White Beam is Okio. He ought to go away for a change of ideas, and he'd have a world of things to look back on. Do, sweet Daniel. If I weren't a Jones in myself, I'd elect myself to be his dolphin in the wilds below, because he is such a barefooted rubber with my super socks pulled over his face, which I publicked in my best back garden for the litification of siderodromites and to the irony of the stars. And he wants my addition of meal, meat, bread, butter, dripping, eggs, tea and cabbage with a doorstep. I ought not to indulge on this stage, still I will think he is so very all-Irish. You will say it is most un-English, and I shall hope to hear that you will not be wrong about it. But I further, feeling a bit husky in my truths. Will you please come over and let us murmur murgisly to each other's down below our voices? I am being underheard by old Bill Faust. Wilsh is full of kirks. The cool skittle is Philip Dablinite. Mr. Whist is there over behind the want-not. Wilsh and Whist are as thick of thins, other as Faust on the Dablinite. Sconosciuto estas preta la tapizo malgranda. Li legas al si en sia ĉambro. Kelkfoje functas, kelkfoje srumpas ŝultroj. Hodiaŭ kiel vi fartas, mi nigra sinjoro? And from the point of fun where I'm trying to arrive you at, they are on all four as foible-minded as you can feel they are fable-bodied. My heeders will recoil with great leisure how at the outbreak before trespassing on the space question, where even Michelangelines have fooled to dread, I proved to myself, as to your satisfaction, how his abject all through, the quick wit of Professor Ciondoloni's too frequently hypothecated Bettlermensch, is nothing so much more than a mere cash dime, however genteel he may want ours, if we please. I am speaking to us in the second person, to feel about it, for to this graded intellectual's dime is cash, and the cash system, you must not be allowed to forget that this is all contained, I mean the system, in the dogmarks of Origen on Spurios, means that I cannot now have or not have a piece of cheaps in your pocket at the same time and with the same manners as you can now not half or half the cheeker piece I've in mind, unless Burris and Casius have not or not have simultaneously disentangled themselves, sell dear to sold there, once in the dairy days of by and by. Burris, let us like to imagine, is a genuine prime, the real choice, full of natural grease, the mildest of milkstoffs, yet unbeaten as a ricicide, and, of course, obsoletely unadulterous, whereat Casius is obversely the revise of him, and in fact not an ideal choice by any means, though the better man of the two is meltingly addicted to the more casual side of the arrivalist's case and, let me say it at once, as zealous over him as is passably he. The same home and history Sikhs and Hydepens, which we used to be reading for our pre-purgatory, hot shot, till Daddy shot the shopper up, and Mutti, poor Mutti, brought us our poor soppy, ahoo, how, in Acetius and Oleosus and Cellius Volatilis and Petrus Papricus. Our old party quite united round the sled bowl at Commons. Pharsalamos himself and that sprog of a pedicil and his sprig of thyme and a dozen of the Murphy buds and a score and more of the hot young Capples and Letitia in her green sleeves and you two and me three, twinsome bibs but handsome eights, like Shakespeare and eggs. But there's many a split pretext bowl and jowl. And, snob screwing that cock shot, to understand this as well as you can, feeling how backward you are in your down-to-the-ground benches, I have completed the following arrangement for the coarse use of stools. Cheese it. The older Caesars, tyrants, regicide is too good for you, and if I don't make away with you, I'm beyond Caesar outnullused. Become unbearable from age. The compositor of the Farce of Destiny, however, makes a thumpledrum mistake by letting off his pianoforte effect at his first act, as that is where the juke comes in. Having been sort of nine-knifed and duly removed, this soldier-author Batman, for all his commentaryism, is just another of those soft-sized bubbles who never quite got the Sandhurst out of his eyes, so that the champagne he draws for us is as flop as a plant creek. The Twin Freer types are built to make their reappearance as the new neck and knife knickknocks on the deserted chambre de bouteille. A most cursory reading into the Persic Euralian's hostelry shows us how Phonomagogula picked up that proper numen out of a collection of prefixes, though to the permeating connoisseur, the Caucasian offspring of the son of a cock is as certain as there's a tub in Tobolsk. Ostiak de la Vogul Marina. But that I deny the fact of Wanton to West Point, I could paint you to that butter if you had some wash. Maud were alive. On me non-nonsense. Why the case is as inessive and impossive as chasm hands. The interlocutive is conprovocative, just as every hazzy hates to having a has-been in her hose. Casius may he think himself a thought of a caviller, but Burris has the richly rounded head that goes best with soft-thinking defensive fideism. He has the lack of wisdom under every dent in his laughter, while the other follows onivesi milky indeed, mum. Laughing over the linnets and weeping over the unium. He hisn't the hay, och he listened the lug, pooh. And each night sim Mrs. Mant, he winks he had the same again. It was aptly and corrigidly stated, and it is royally needless for one, ex ungue leonem, to say by whom, that his seeing-craft was that clarity, as were the whole borough of St. Petersburg to be avalanchhed over him pitch-patch, he could still make out with his outstretched the green mote of Ireland's eye. Let me sell you the full troth of Burris when he wore a younker. Here it is, and charming too, in 6x7s. A cleanly line by the gods. A king off-duty and a jaw forever. What Brunoesque proportions, me Ercles. And what a cheery ripe outlook, good help me Deus vi Deus. If I were to speak my whole mouthful to Ariman about it, you should call me the almost element in your midst of femme. Eat ye up, heat ye up, sings the soulman in the psalm. butyrum et melco medet, ut sciat reprobare malum et eligere bonum. This, of course, also explains why we were taught to play in the childhood. Der Hänsli ist ein Butterbrot, fein Butterbrot, mein Butterbrot. Und Köbi ist ein Stinkenkot. Ja, ja, ja. This, in fact, just to show you, is Casius, the brother Scotch or poor tyrant. A hole or two, the high stink of forefeld, and any go prigging worms. Jesus, you complain. And I must say, you are not wholly in the wrong. Thus we cannot escape our likes and mislikes, exiles or embouchures, beggar and neighbor, and so, this is where the dime show advertisers advance the temporal relief plea, let us be tolerant of antitheses. Nex quovis burunum fit mercaseus. I am not hereby giving my final endorsement to the learned ignorance of the Cusanus philosophism, in which old Nicholas pegs it down that the smarter the spin of the top, the sounder the span of the bottom. What the worthy old auberginist ought to have meant was, the more stolidly immobile in space appears to me the bottom, which is presented to use in time by the top primo mobilisc, etc. And I shall be misunderstood if understood to give an unconditional sine qua nunc to the heroicized furry bouts of the Nolanus theory, or, at any rate, of that substrate of apart from his theory, where the Theophile swears by his father familiaritas and his mother contumelia, and by the soul in his suit, and the animus in his soul, and the mind in his animus, and the good in his mind, that on principial he was the pointing start of his odios by comparison, and that whilst egg will fall cheapened all over the world, the boor will be dear on the brie. Now, while I am not out now to be taken up as unintentionally recommending the Silkir Bjork Tyron Dynamon machine for the more anocomical helixtrolysis of these embodipates, until I can find space to look into it myself a little more closely first, I shall go on with my decisions after having shown to you in good time how both products of our social stomach, the excellent Dr. Burrowman, I noticed by the way from his amended food theory, has been carefully digesting the very wholesome criticism I helped him to in my Princeps edition, which is also munched to the cud, are mutually polarized, the incompletitude of any delusional acting as ambivalent to the fixation of his pivotism. Positing, as above, two male pools, the one the pictor of the other, and the ombre the scotia of the one, and looking wantingly around our undistributed middle between males, we feel we must wastefully wont a female to focus. And on this stage, there pleasantly appears the cowrie maid M, whom we shall often meet below, who introduces herself upon us at some precise hour, which we shall again agree to call absolute zero, or the babbling pump of Platonism. And so, like that former son of a Kish, who went up and out to found his farmer's ashes, we come down home gently on our own turned-about asses to meet Margarine. We now romp through a period of pure lyricism of shame-bred music. Technologically, let me say, the appetizing entry of this subject on a full chest of files is plumply putting the cart before the devoreur. Evidenced by such words in distress as, I cream for thee, sweet Margarine, and the more hopeful, O Margarina, still in the bowl is left a lump of gold. Correspondents, by the way, will keep on asking me what is the correct garnish to serve dressines with. Tansy sauce, enough. The pawn-breaking pathos of the first of those shoddy pieces reveals it as a Casius effort. Burris's bit is often used for a toast. Criniculture can tell us very precisely indeed how and why this particular streak of yellow silver first appeared on, not in, the bowl, that is to see, the human head, bold, black, bronze, brown, brindled, beteraved or blanche-manged, where it might be usefully compared with an earwig on a full bottom. I am offering this to Signorina Kutikura, and I intend to take it up and bring it under the notice of Herr Harlin by way of diverting his attentions. Of course, the unskilled singer continues to pervert our wiser ears by subordinating the space element, that is to sing the aria, to the time factor, which ought to be killed, il tempore. I should advise any unborn singer, who may still be among my heeders, to forget her temporal diaphragm at home, the best thing that could happen to it, and attack the roulade with a swift colpodyglottite to the lug. Though Mookse, I will insist, was reclined from overdoing this, his recovery often being slow. And then, oh, on the third dead beat, oh, to close her eyes and open her oaths and see what spice I may send her. How? Seize thee, cantatrici! I fain would be solo. Arouse thee, my valor, and save for e'er my troubadour. I shall have a word to say in a few yards about the acoustic and architectural management of the tone hall, but, as ours is a vivarius, where one plant's brief is a lunger planner's bicent, and you may not care for the organ, it will be very convenient for me for the emolument to pursue Burrus and Casius for a rung or two up their isoscellating biangle. Every admirer of my blank manner has seen with eyes watered my goulash of Marge. She is so like the sister you don't know, and they both dress alike, which I titled The Very Picture of a Needless Woman, and which in the present ornates our national crude stand. This genre of portraiture of changes of mind, in order to be truly torse, should evoke the bush soul of the females. So I'm leaving it to the experienced victim to complete the general suggestion by mental addition of a wallopy bound, or, should the zoological zealot prefer it, a congaroo teal. The hat boxes which compose Romba, Lady Trebizond, March in her excelsis, also comprise the climactogram up which B and C may fondly be imagined ascending, and are suggestive of gentlemen's spring modes, these modes carrying us back to the superimposed clay layers of Eocene and Pleistocene formation, and the gradual morphological changes in our body politic, which Professor Eberhi Ahuri of Philadelphia Poinis, Illinois, whose blue butter bust I have just given his coup de grace to, neatly names a boîte à surprise. The boxes, if I may break the subject gently, are worth about 4d per box, but I am inventing a more patent process, foolproof and perfect. I should like to ask that Sherlock Holmes person who is out for removing the roofs of our criminal classics, by what deductio ad dominum he hopes de tacto to detect anything, unless he happens of himself, movibile tectu, to have been a state of. After which they can be reduced to a fragment of their true crust by even the youngest of Margies, if she will take place to be seated and smile if I please. Now there can be no question about it either that I, having done as much, have quite got the size of that demilitary young female, we will continue to call her Marge, whose types may be met with in any public garden, wearing a very dressy affair known as an easel, of instep length and with a real fur, reduced to 3/9, and a muffin cap. They are angel skin this fall, to tone, ostentatiously hemming apologetically over the shirtness of some sweet garment, when she is not sitting on all the free benches evidently reading about it, but evidently on the lookout for him, also thrilled about the best-dressed dolly pram and beautiful elbow competition, or at the movies swallowing sobs and blowing big mixquits over Child Chaplin's latest, or on the verge of the gutter with some bobbed hair, brief-frocked baby-masked toddler. The Smythes now keep 2 domestics and aspire to 3 male ones, a shover, a buttlegger, and a sectary. Held hostage at arm's length, teaching his infant majesty how to make waters worse. I am closely watching Master Pules, as I have reasons to suspect from my post that her little man is a secondary school teacher under the boards of education, a voted disciple of Infantulus who is being utilized thus publicly by the seducente Infanta to conceal her own more masculine personality by flaunting frivolous finery over men's inside clothes. For the femininity of the tota mujer will always lack the masculine of a verum virum. My solutions for the proper parturience of Matris and the education of micturious mites must stand over from the moment till I tackle this tickler hussy for occupying my attentions. Margarina, she's very fond of Burrus, but, a lick and a leg, she very fond of Chi. The important influence exercised on everything by this East Asian import has not been till now fully flavored, though we can comfortably taste it in this case. I shall come back for a little more say farther on. A Cleopatrician in her own right, she at once complicates the position, while Burrus and Cassius are contending for her mystery by implicating herself with an elusive Antonius, a wop who would appear to hug a personal interest in refined cheese of all shades, at the same time as he wags an entomine art of being rude like the boor. This Antonius Burrus Cassius group triad may be said to equate the Qualis equivalent with the older so-called Thales on Thales one, just as quaintly as in the hyperchemical economentarchy the tantum ergens illuminate the quantum urge, so that X is to way as to Z, like your golf child's a boob caddy. And, taking off sour stuffs and alkalic matters, I hope we can kill time to reach the salt, because there's some first-class nutric acids bittering in the salt pewter for you to plump your pottage in. And this is why any simple straw-bellied Philadelphus of a fool you like to dress, anathema-stewed Lothaunian ex-legist fratricide, may be awfully green to one side of him and fruitfully blue on the other, which will not screen him, however, from appealing to my grope-searching eyes, through the strongholds of my acropole, as a boosted, blasted, bleating, blatant, bloated, blasphemous idiot, who cannot tail a bomb from a pineapple when he steals one, and will not sing his psalmon for his congregational purposes with a canting crew. No, topsman to your tapeya. This thing, Minster Abbey, is nefand. The thundering legion has stormed or limped at it end. 12 tabular times till now have I addicted it. Mirus genius to Carius Cassius. Moriture te salutat. My Themis races run, so let Demon Cressy take the hindmost. Abraham Trippier, those old diligencies are quite out of date. Read next answer. I'll now beat you so long. Big-tempered. Why not take direct action? See previous reply. My unchanging word is sacred. The word is my wife, to espouse and expound, to vend and to venerate, and may the curlews crown our nuptials. Till breath us depart. Women, beware would you change with my years. Be as young as your grandmother. The ring man in the wrong shop, but the right words by the road order. Ubi lingua nunc passit ibi fas. Adversus hostem semper sac. She that will not feel my full moon, let her appeal to thee as the hoyden and the impudent. That mon that hath no Moses in his soul, nor is not awed by conquest of earth's law, who never with himself was fed, and leaves his soil to lave his head, when his hopes and his high-lows from whisking his woe, if he came to my preach, a proud purse-broken ranger, when the heavens were welling the spite of their spout, to beg for a bite in our bark noise danger, would meself and Japheth, four in hand, foot him out? Aye. Were he my own breast brother, my doubled with love, and my single biased hate, were he bred by the same fire and signed with the same salt, had we tapped from the same master and robbed of the same till, were we tucked in the one bed and bit by the one flea, homo gallant and hemi cap noise, bum and dingo, jack by churl, though it broke my heart to pray it, still I'd fear, I'd hate to say. 12. Sacer esto? Answer. Semus sumus.